What up, everybody?
I live again. They're all dead. They just don't know it yet. Come out, wherever you are.
Could be fun to play on stream.
And then there are people who let their work speak for them. And then there are people who shout so loudly about how brilliant they are, you start to wonder what they're trying to drown out.
You've never met anyone with as much willpower as me. And whatever it is you think you're good at in your life, I'd probably take about a year and become an authority in the field in which you think you're.
Been reading lots of books lately and I want to give The International Jew by Henry Ford a try. Have you read?
Yeah, you probably don't want to read that. He literally copied it from anti-Semitic propaganda coming out of Europe. I think it originated out of Russia. Thanks for the donation, though, Pooh.
Good. I'm both on a raw IQ scale smarter than almost every coach, maybe every coach. And I know more about physiology, body responses, etc. than they do. You are presuming you know more than me about the thing I'm one of the top experts in the world in, and also the thing I'm literally involved in myself. So whatever ideas you have about how I can improve, just right off. There's a very high probability that I'm much better at.
This is a horrible idea.
The White House also releasing a map detailing the different phases of IDF withdrawal within Gaza. Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doucette was there, and he's now here to give us the major takeaways. Peter?
And, Will, there are
Qatar, Egypt shares Trump's Gaza peace plan with Hamas.
20 principles of peace, they call them, that
Egypt makes some semblance of sense. Qatar, why in the fuck would you have Qatar involved in this?
the U.S., President Trump, and the Israelis, Prime Minister Netanyahu, agreed to. We don't know yet how many of those points Hamas negotiators will agree to because the U.S. doesn't talk directly to Hamas. They rely on calls to Qatar to pass messages back and forth.
Arab and Muslim partners are fully prepared to step up and fulfill their commitments for the benefit of the people of Gaza and the entire region. They're willing to step up and do a lot. They really are. There are a lot of good people involved.
With this, President Trump is formalizing his plan from a few months ago to redevelop Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East. One of the points here is the Trump economic development plan to rebuild and re-energize Gaza. Lots of possibilities, but first today, Netanyahu had to do something. He had to call Qatar and say sorry for strikes inside Qatar that unintentionally killed a Qatari serviceman. Now that that's out of the way, the burden is going to shift to the Palestinians.
Okay, well, we'll see how that goes. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Making fun of people than you are.
So naturally, when I got my hands on Mike Israetel's PhD thesis, I expected a masterwork, an intellectual tour de force. Instead,
I'm a perfectionist asshole with a PhD. Yeah, hell yeah, that's why I say shit like that.
Dr. Mike, geez, that's a big deal. And I've noticed that carries a lot of weight. Like all I feel is rage and frustration.
What I got was a document so sloppy, shallow,
Jeez, what the fuck? What in the fuck was he thinking putting that in his PhD thesis?
and confused, it could only pass in a system that had already failed. Other JD students at Melbourne Law School use their database access to read case law. I used mine to download Mike Israetel's PhD thesis, which I read in its entirety. For those unfamiliar, Mike Israetel is a prominent figure in the fitness world. He's a competitive bodybuilder, a highly successful YouTuber, and the creator of the popular Exercise Scientist Critique series. Mike frequently highlights his status as a PhD holder across all his platforms, from his Instagram handle to dozens of YouTube videos.
Dr. Mike, Dr. Mike, Dr. Mike, Dr. Mike, Dr. Mike, Dr. Mike here for RP Strength.
His company website and advertised products. But what about the academic rigor of the PhD itself? In this video, we'll examine just that. I'll conduct a critical analysis of the doctoral research that forms the basis of Mike's credibility as an exercise scientist. In Chapter 2 of this video, I'll provide an overview of Mike's thesis. Chapter 3 will then outline the standard assessment criteria for PhD theses. Building on this, Chapter 4 presents my core argument, that by these standard academic criteria, Mike's PhD thesis would likely fail, or at the very least be sent back for major revisions at any high-ranking university. Chapter 5 outlines why this finding matters, and I conclude in Chapter 6 by tying the threads together. I'll show how Mike's PhD thesis, far from bolstering his credibility, actually destroys it. Mike Israetel's PhD thesis, titled The Interrelationships of Fitness Characteristics in Division 1 Athletes, investigates how various fitness traits, including strength, rate of force development, power, vertical jump height, short distance sprinting speed, and body composition, relate to one another in Division 1 collegiate athletes. The overarching aim is to explore the extent to which athletic performance can be understood as the summation of these interrelated physical attributes. 80 NCAA Division 1 athletes from 4 sports.
So basically, athletes are good at doing athletic stuff. That's his PhD thesis. Oh my god. Oh, I could never have imagined this would be so retarded.
Sports, baseball, women's volleyball, men's soccer, and women's soccer, participated in a longitudinal athlete monitoring program at East Tennessee State University. They underwent assessments of maximal strength, rate of force development, power output, vertical jump height, short distance sprinting speed, and body composition. Statistical analyses examined correlations.
Sengoku, don't need to tell her, say what you want about Tate, but he's 100% right here.
Love when they get what they want. That's it.
You need
So there's no
water.
loyalty. Loyalty doesn't exist.
What I'm trying to say here, and any man who's been to divorce or had problems with women will agree with me and understand exactly what I'm saying. Women are loyal to how they feel. If you make them feel a certain way, then they're loyal to that feeling, which is loyal to you. Women aren't loyal to anything outside of how they feel.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Men actually are more loyal than women because men, like I said, can suffer gracefully. Women can't. Men will be loyal to a society. Men will be loyal to a race. Men will be loyal to their friends. Women can't even get along for 5 minutes amongst themselves. Men will be best friends for 50 years. Men are loyal. We know loyalty completely. We'll go die in a ditch for a flag. You want to talk about loyalty? Men are loyal. Women aren't loyal. Women are, how do I feel today?
Yeah, it's totally true. If he wasn't a crazy criminal rapist, he wouldn't be, he'd have some good relationship advice. Thanks for the donation, though, Sengoku.
Negotiating with terrorists, great idea not.
Yeah, you should just exterminate them. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. So donate $2. Are acoustic panels good for reducing echo? Do you have any recommendations or comments on your experience with using them, or did you use them to prevent sound from outside your apartment? Acoustic panels do not block outside sounds. They reduce echo, and they're highly effective at that. Acoustic foam is usually extraordinarily overpriced, and you're going to get a similar or about as good of an effect from just putting up like blankets around the walls. So if you want to be super cheap, you can just get a bunch of blankets and hang them up like from like background photography stands. So, you know, if you have like a couple tripods and a pole, you can just hang a blanket up over that, and then that'll work about as well as acoustic foam. All it's doing is preventing sound from reverberating off the wall. But it works well. Thanks for the donation, Sid.
Among these measures, as well as differences between high and low performing subgroups. The results demonstrated that,
oh my god, more incel bullshit. I work with 90% women. Oh my god. You are so fucking gay and cucked. Yeah, dude, why don't you try fucking any of those women, and then you'll see pretty quickly how fickle they are.
1. Strength strongly correlates with muscularity. 2. Athletes with higher relative force and power output demonstrate superior jumping and sprinting ability. And
no shit.
3. Leaner athletes outperform less lean athletes in nearly all metrics, especially relative strength, power, vertical jumping, and sprinting. Perhaps unsurprisingly, these results largely aligned with conventional sports science assumptions that leaner, stronger, and more muscular athletes tend to perform better in key physical domains. In his conclusion, Mike summarizes his findings, which basically just reinforce existing wisdom about athletic performance. Mike suggests how future research could explore how fitness priorities might vary across skill levels, but offers little in the way of specific methodological approaches or clearly defined unanswered questions. In short, Mike's thesis consolidates the widely held view in sports science that it's...
Dodo, donate $2. Let me see.
Just try this if you got kids.
Or notice it.
Look at the ingredients. If it has red dye in it.
Red 40 or red 3.
If it has red dye in it.
Which red 3 they're getting ready to legally ban. It's banned in most other countries.
Just before you call me stupid or a conspiracy theorist, take it out and watch the difference in your kids. We just tried this.
My nigga, so glad to see you on late. So looking forward to a stream till 4 a.m. That's what's up.
Alright, well, you're welcome. Thanks for the donation, dumbass. They've literally done experiments like this. There's been this conventional wisdom that if you give kids sugar, they act hyperactive. Well, they've done double-blind placebo randomized control trials on this. They fed kids sugar, and they fed some other kids a placebo. It's just artificial sweetener that isn't sugar. And they told the parents that their kids got sugar, whether they actually got sugar or not. The parents' perception of whether or not their kids were acting hyperactive was dependent on their perception of whether or not they thought the kids got sugar, not that the kids got sugar. So this can all be explained by their own personal bias.
Night and day. Not only that, Cora just had some of that red dye.
We went to a gender reveal and she had some Doritos and a cupcake.
Which, by the way, this stuff's in everything. It's out there.
Just chimpanzees. Everyone's just fucking baboon.
born in Pakistan, originally from Pakistan. You must have been kidnapped by me.
Have been kidnapped by you?
Of course. Of course, there is no option to get you, right?
Okay. You have your women over there, though.
Seriously. So you are in Canada, so I cannot say you anything.
Okay.
I cannot touch you anything. Because it is Canada.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely you couldn't touch me. There's laws to this shit here.
You know what I mean?
That's not that flattering. That's kind of scary.
Trust me, because like there was no option.
Okay. Well, you have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Shababoom.
Let's not import any Pakistanis. Never seen so much quackery in one video. Also, of course, it's all women in the class. Also, the women are ugly. What's with that?
See, you look pale. You need to buck up your blood. Are you vegan?
No, vegetarian.
Vegetarian. So you need a B12. And B12 and folic acid. So you should eat pomegranate juice, beet, carrot juice, and spinach.
Yeah, the reason why women do this shit is because it's all feelings. Anything that does not involve critical thinking whatsoever and relies on your own personal feelings, women love that shit. That's why they're all into ghosts. What is it? Spirituality, fucking tarot cards. Like, none of it requires any kind of, you know, empirical evidence or critical thinking or scientific method. It's just how you feel. So women love that dumb shit. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
I mean seriously, just when you couldn't hate Trump more, now he is making deals with terrorists. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, he's done this before. Look at Afghanistan. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
I'm learning Polish, and there is one English Polish dictionary that is far better than any other. But it costs a monthly subscription. I signed up for the free trial and web scraped the entire dictionary into a SQLite database. Coding Noldy is freedom.
That is fucking base, dude. It ain't piracy if you can't own it to begin with. Thanks for the donation, non-web.
It's a good idea for aspiring athletes to become leaner, stronger, and more muscular. Before we...
And to think creationists insist humans aren't one of these.
See those monkeys in the trees? They sure do love to swing.
Yeah, people are just fucking monkeys. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. They're worse than monkeys. Monkeys, like, at least have the excuse of being monkeys. People are just fucking annoying. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
we critically examine Mike's thesis, we need objective criteria to assess it by. Although the core expectations and assessment criteria for a PhD thesis are remarkably consistent globally, my alma mater Melbourne University can serve as a guide. To be awarded a pass, a doctoral thesis must A. Demonstrate authority in the candidate's field and show evidence of command of knowledge in relevant fields. So you have to inspire trust in the reader. The reader should get the impression that you're a reliable investigator in the field. You're an equal among peers who have also advanced it. B. Demonstrate a thorough grasp of the methodological techniques appropriate to the research question and an awareness of their limitations. So it's not enough just to choose a methodology. You have to persuade the reader that you chose it for a good reason. C. Make a contribution to knowledge that rests on originality of approach and/or interpretation of the findings, and in some cases, the discovery of new facts. So you have to offer a genuinely new contribution that meaningfully advances your field. You can't just replicate or tweak past work. D. Demonstrate the candidate's ability to communicate research findings effectively. So you can't bury your findings in jargon or submit something that reads like an unedited draft. Your thesis has to be clearly written, professionally presented, and free from basic mistakes, whether in language, formatting, or data handling. E. Demonstrate an understanding of and commitment to research ethics and integrity. So all that really just means is that you have to conduct your research responsibly. And that means just being transparent, getting explicit consent from any participants, etc. And F, be a careful, rigorous, and
Dodo Donate Chillers, is this person a man or a woman? Watch for a few secs, they will speak and you will tell.
There are indentation, man of...
That's a tough one. I'm not sure.
Option.
I think that's a woman.
You wear glasses?
Sometimes contact lenses.
Yeah, it's a woman. And what about this person?
Interscapular area.
That's a woman.
Interscapular.
Why are they listening to some dumbass Indian guy? Maha wins. Swedish fish maker Mondelez will switch food dyes to natural. That's great. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Sustained piece of work, demonstrating that a research apprenticeship is complete and the holder may be admitted to the community of scholars in the discipline. So you can't just stitch together a few chapters and call it a thesis. The whole thing...
Will VG, to be fair, if evolution has taught us anything, it's the smarter animals evolve, the crueler they become.
I mean, whales seem like at least blue whales and stuff. They seem nice. Elephants seem nice. They're pretty smart. But, yeah. There's definitely a relationship between intelligence and cruelty. I think if you are just cruel, being smarter just makes you better at cruelty. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
It needs to be coherent, meticulously edited, internally consistent, and attentive to detail, which includes, of course, how your data are presented, interpreted, and integrated across chapters. In this chapter, I'll argue that, according to standard assessment criteria, Mike's thesis would have failed, or at the very least been sent back for major revisions at any high-ranking university. Mike's thesis falls short of fulfilling one of the most fundamental requirements for doctoral research, a significant contribution of original knowledge. The stated goal of Mike's thesis was to explore interrelationships among fitness variables that he claimed were less clear in the existing literature. However, the core findings, that stronger athletes are more muscular and powerful, that more powerful athletes jump higher and sprint faster, and that leaner athletes perform better in these tasks, are not only unsurprising, but also extensively documented in prior research, even by 2013. You don't have to take it from me. Just listen to Mike himself, who openly concedes this throughout the document. For instance, in Chapter 3, Mike explicitly notes that the finding that stronger athletes produce higher rates of force development has been previously well supported in the literature, and that the finding of higher power generating abilities being associated with stronger athletes is well supported by previous data. On the following page, he acknowledges that stronger athletes, especially relative to their body mass, tend to jump higher and sprint faster, and that his findings merely show trends in this direction. He repeats this theme in Chapter 4, when he affirms that his results concord with much of the other research on the relationships between power, body composition, and athletic performance. By Chapter 5, the pattern is unmistakable. The abstract reiterates that athletes with higher lean body mass and lower body fat are stronger, more powerful, and faster. reinforcing the importance of body composition, a point that has been reinforced in many previous publications. Pages 97 through 98 continue this line, noting that the observed correlations concord well with existing literature. In the final summary, Mike concludes that relative strength is a better predictor of performance than absolute strength, based both on the findings of previous literature and this investigation.
So he literally admits in his thesis that he has no new ideas. Like,
nearly every major result is explicitly framed as a confirmation of prior research, rather than a departure from it. To be clear, replication is a valuable part of scientific practice. Confirmatory studies can reinforce confidence in previous findings, especially when using diverse populations or refined measurement tools. But a PhD thesis isn't just a scientific study. It's a scholarly work held to a higher standard. It's supposed to demonstrate that the candidate can contribute new knowledge to his or her field, not just affirm what's already well accepted. By that criterion, Mike's dissertation doesn't qualify. Mike's thesis proposes no new theories, investigates no novel mechanisms nor methods, and makes no methodological innovations. It's a largely descriptive work that fails to advance the conceptual boundaries of sports science in any meaningful way. Another way Mike's thesis could be said to lack originality is its dearth of independence in thought and approach. While it is expected that a PhD candidate will ground his or her work in existing literature, Mike's thesis rarely moves beyond mere reiteration. As I'll detail later, the literature review in Mike's thesis is uncritical. It's just an inventory of past findings rather than an evaluative synthesis. And that kind of passive engagement with sources continues throughout the thesis. Mike's research questions are framed in terms of small, population-specific gaps, without articulating why these gaps matter or whether existing models should be expected to fail in the context of Division I athletes. Merely noting the absence of data isn't on its own a meaningful justification for research. A legitimate research gap demands a theoretical reason to believe that something unexpected, different, or revelatory might be found. Who knows, perhaps even something counter-expected, to borrow from Mike's idiolect. This is something Mike's thesis never provides. Mike's lack of independence in thought and approach is evident in the methodology as well. All performance tests, analytical techniques, and interpretative frameworks appear to be taken directly from existing literature, most often from Mike's supervisor, Mike Stone, and close colleagues, without exploration of alternatives or acknowledgement of limits.
Dodo donated $2. Let me see. Okay, we'll probably watch that later. I kind of want to get through this video first, but thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Limitations. The thesis
I'll speed this up. 1.5.
This doesn't test new models, question prevailing assumptions, nor integrate competing viewpoints. The lack of originality in the thesis is therefore not surprising. It's the predictable result of a research process that never stepped outside its own circle to ask new questions. A doctoral thesis isn't evaluated just on the originality or significance of its content, but also the clarity.
Like, this honestly seems like something, like it's like below what I would have written in high school. Like, he's literally just
Derek
saying...
Yates writer. Darius Sneed.
He's literally just saying people who are jacked and lean and strong are good at sports. Yeah, no shit. How in the fuck do you... Like, this has to be a racket. I know MIT has been doing this for a while. What a lot of universities are doing is they're creating these really stupid courses that are just bullshit. And they're allowing people to get PhD degrees in these courses to artificially inflate the amount of PhD graduates they have. And it's like basically it's a way of charging students ridiculous amounts of money so that they can get some ridiculous degree, just so they can, because people think their lives will be better if they have, you know, a PhD in their name, right? So I know MIT's been doing this for a while. There's that dumbass fucking idiot, what was her name, Misfit and Nerdy. She went to MIT, and I don't think she got a PhD degree. It might have been like a master's or something. But I remember her course was just ridiculous. It was in like some media studies. So they're probably doing this more and more with like more established STEM fields, because like, again, universities are just like, they're just money hungry assholes. They're just trying to inflate their profits. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're just giving people PhD degrees just because, again, it makes sense for them, where, oh, we'll have more PhD candidates and people will spend money on this shit, and these dumb fucks will just cough up like tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, let's just give these dumbasses some fucking worthless degree so we make money. Dodo donate $2. Agreed, VGA. Honestly believe if it really was a Planet of the Apes and not humans, the world would be a much nicer place. I don't know about that. Chimpanzees are assholes, but thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Clarity and accuracy with which that content is presented. Mike Israetel's thesis fails comprehensively on this front. Across the thesis, Mike presents impossible and contradictory.
Greenis penis Ricardio Bergisi Bababui Bugatti Snotty Sneed Seed Pino Weena Samia Gupta Christinian Muslimium Jewite Bona Yum Gum Dim Sum 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 LLLLLL fuck.
Alright, well thank you for that non-wib. Appreciate the donation.
Contradictory data, inflates simple points with jargon, and allows hundreds of basic grammatical, typographical, and formatting errors to remain uncorrected. The following sections unpack these issues in detail, and by the end, you'll see that it's impossible to view Mike's work as anything but fundamentally compromised. Some of the data Mike presents in the extreme group comparison tables are statistically impossible. On page 77, Mike acknowledges the large standard deviations in tables 4.6 and 4.7. But how large are we talking? Well, let's examine. I'll put on screen tables 4.6 and 4.7, which are on page 71. They compare the top 20 and bottom 20 jumpers. Tables 4.6 and 4.7 report that for the 20 lowest performers, the mean body masses were 73.9 kilos and 75.3 kilos respectively, with standard deviations of 71.8 kilos, virtually equal to the means themselves. This is a statistical absurdity. Standard deviation measures the spread of the data around the mean. A standard deviation this large, relative to the mean, is nonsensical in a biological context. For this to be true, given a normal distribution, it would mean that roughly 1/3 of the lowest performing athletes in table 4.6 had a body mass either greater than 145.7 kilos or less than 2.1 kilos, the weight of a newborn. And since we know that this group consists of 20 Division I college athletes, this is impossible. But it gets even worse. In table 4.6, 1/3 of the lowest performers was either older than age 41.2 or younger than -1.6. So they hadn't even been born. In table 4.7, 1/3 was either older than age 41.1 or younger than -1.3. Mike does this again on page 94 in table 5.4. As with tables 4.6 and 4.7, the standard deviations for the lowest performers are impossible. Here, 1/3 of the lowest performers was either taller than 3.459 meters, taller than any human ever recorded, or shorter than -6.1 centimeters. As to age, either they were older than 40.4 years of age, or younger than -1.4 years, meaning, once again, that they hadn't yet been born. No wonder they were such low performers. These are numbers so fundamentally wrong that they could only result from incompetent data entry, which is exactly what's happened here. Mike appears to have simply copied the mean figures of the highest performers and pasted them.
If you have an education at MIT, you'd be able to get an internship basically anywhere and have amazing job prospects. That's not a waste of money. Yeah, cool story, dude. Yeah, get some useless degree at MIT and then apply for a job, see what happens. No one's gonna fucking hire you because they can hire some Indian immigrant who has the same level of education as you and they can pay them a much lower fucking wage. So why in the fuck would they give a shit about your stupid fucking MIT degree? Like if the degree isn't worth anything, just having a degree at MIT doesn't do anything for you.
Are you familiar with Tarian Yates the writer? You know, Tara in Sneed right here? Are you?
Right.
As the standard deviations of the lowest performers. To have made this mistake just once would be damning enough. But Mike makes this exact same error in 3 separate tables. These mistakes invalidate the entire tables and any conclusions drawn from them. If this doesn't count as ineffective communication of research findings, then nothing does. Further incompetence can be seen in Mike's handling of percent differences. Take table 5.5, where the majority of percent differences reported is negative. However, Mike omits the minus sign altogether in figures 5.1 and 5.2, as well as in the text on page 96. For example, he writes off an 8% difference without clarifying that the value in question was actually negative 8.71% according to table 5.5. Mike's rounding is also both imprecise and inconsistent. Starting with imprecision, percent differences of negative 8.71% and negative 7.91% are both inexplicably rounded up to 8%. As to inconsistency, a smaller difference of 2.42% is rounded more precisely to 2.4%, whereas all of the other percent differences are rounded to whole numbers. Mike gives no explanation for these discrepancies, and this sloppiness with the handling of percent differences crops up not just in Chapter 5, but also Chapters 3 and 4. This leads one to have rather little confidence in the care that was taken to present the results faithfully. I also want to highlight a finding in Table 4.4 that flatly contradicts one of the central premises of Mike's thesis, which is that jump height correlates with sprint speed. This holds for the female athletes. Table 4.4 shows a strong negative correlation, negative 0.617, between jump height and 20-meter sprint time, as expected. But for the male athletes, the reported correlation is positive, 0.653, suggesting, bizarrely, that higher jumpers were actually slower sprinters. Now, Mike never acknowledges nor explains this contradiction. Most likely it's just a typo, a missing minus sign. On its own, it wouldn't be damning. But given the context of the other glaring data errors, as well as many other basic mistakes that I'll detail later, it becomes part of a much larger pattern of negligence. When your tables repeatedly include sprinters who haven't been born yet, athletes shorter than 0 centimeters, and standard deviations that imply body masses smaller than a house cat, or larger than an offensive lineman riding another offensive lineman, it's no longer just sloppy. It's disqualifying. Throughout Mike's thesis, simple ideas are inflated with verbose, pseudo-technical language. This habit appears as early as the first page of the introductory chapter. Let's look at this equation. Skill 1 plus skill 2 plus skill 3 plus ellipsis plus skill n equals athletic performance magnitude. Mike asserts that skills sum to generate athletic performance. But why do they sum and not multiply or interact in complex ways? Mike doesn't say.
My ideal day, I would go down into my basement office and do deep work. Equations, systematizing things.
This equation is presented twice in the thesis.
Reoccurred stop. You're scaring me. You're scaring the animals, dude. Can you stop? Jesus Christ. You're annoying me. I'm trying to play this game. Reoccurred, you have to get up and stream. You can't stay in bed all day. We need money to feed the animals.
Thanks for the donation, 21st. I'm not sure where he graduated from. Seems like a clown college.
Without any justification. And worse, this is just a convoluted way of saying what Mike later admits on page 103. Sport performance depends on the athlete's ability to execute a combination of skills. Why not just state that from the outset in clear language? The same can also be said of the other equation, fitness characteristics component plus technique components plus psychological component equals total skill magnitude, though there are bigger problems with this equation that I'll get into later. For now, let me draw your attention to how on page 33, Mike labels fitness characteristics, technique, and psychology as theoretical variables. Mike attempts to justify this by stating, these variables are theoretical because pure measurement of almost all of them is impossible, short of a few fitness characteristics such as body mass and percent fat. But this is irrelevant to Mike's thesis. Had Mike just removed the word theoretical, which adds nothing anyway, he would have spared the reader this pointless philosophical digression. Mike's tendency to overcomplicate sometimes backfires. Consider page 14, where Mike defines fitness characteristics as theoretical constructs that obviate the input of any sport-specific technique or psychological variables. Not only is this phrasing clumsy, obviate the input is nonsensical in this context. To obviate means to make unnecessary, or to avoid, or prevent, but Mike misuses it here to mean something like exclude consideration of. What he's trying to say is simple. Fitness characteristics are physical traits, like strength and speed, independent of technique or mindset. But instead of stating that clearly, Mike buries it in pretentious sludge. This tendency to dress up the mundane reaches absurdity in Chapter 3, where Mike argues that allometrically scaled peak force is a superior predictor of performance to relative strength. But in his own tables, on pages 43, 66, and 91, he reports allometrically scaled peak force in newtons per kilogram, which is, by definition, a measure of relative strength. It's just the force an athlete produces divided by his or her body mass. True allometric scaling requires adjusting for nonlinear size relationships using an exponent, for example, mass to the power of 0.5, which Mike never does. So Mike has taken a basic calculation, relative strength, mislabeled it with a more complex and scientific-sounding term, allometric scaling, and then claimed its superiority over the very thing it actually is. It's as if he poured water into a fancy bottle, called it hydroosmotic elixir, and then claimed it's better than regular water. But in trying to sound more sophisticated, Mike inadvertently reveals a lack of understanding, both of the concepts involved and how to convey them clearly.
Say only what needs to be said, because wordiness can impede the ready grasp of ideas. So advises page 67 of the APA 6 publication manual, a resource.
Do you manage to mow the lawn now all by yourself? Do you ever get offered gummies by a fat lady anymore? Vegan bodybuilder gets stumped and goes on gear. Bro is losing everything, huh? Look at you. You're disheveled. I don't see you making it through winter.
That's great. Thanks for the donation, 21st.
Mike clearly should have followed much more closely, as the next section will make all too evident.
I don't like to nitpick the odd typo or formatting inconsistency. I acknowledge that minor errors are hard to avoid in any long document. But Mike Israetel's thesis doesn't just have a few scattered mistakes. It contains literally hundreds of basic grammatical, typographical, and formatting errors. I won't cover all of them here, since it would simply take too long. We can save it for a later video. But even a brief overview is enough to show that this isn't a matter of being overly critical. No reasonable standard of academic quality could justify a thesis this riddled with elementary errors. It speaks to a total lack of editorial care at every level, from the writer, Mike Israetel, to the supervisor, Mike Stone, to the examiners. One of the sloppiest features of Mike's thesis is the rampant copy-pasting of entire sections across chapters, with identical errors left untouched. The method section, in chapters 4 and 5, are near verbatim clones of those in chapter 3, reproducing the exact same typos, the exact same formatting mistakes, and the exact same structural oversights, of which there are many, which is strong evidence that large portions of the thesis were duplicated wholesale without even a cursory proofread. For instance, all 3 chapters contain the same numbering error.
No, if Alex Jones is my uncle, I wouldn't go to family gatherings.
2 consecutive items in a numbered list are labelled 4, an error that appears on pages 40, 62, and 87. Typos like mid-thing pull instead of mid-thigh pull show up first on page 44 and reappear on page 68.
Mid-thing pull?
The phrase test rest reliability, rather than test retest, appears on 3 different pages. Clunky, ungrammatical phrasing, such as shown determinative instead of shown to be determinative, is copied across pages 42 and 65. Even complex citation strings with missing punctuation, inconsistent spacing, and misformatted elements recur word for word in multiple locations. On pages 61 and 86, Mike writes, a large group of athletes was tested in strength, RFD, strength, power, short distance sprinting, and body composition measurements. The word strength is included twice in the same list. This reads more like kenoparody than kinesiology.
Ever since I was 6 years old, I wanted to crack the code.
How... Like, this is strange. It seems like you got lazy and just copied things over and over again.
Code to building a body that was powerful, strong, and powerful.
That such obvious mistakes made it into the final version not just once, but twice or even thrice suggests that no one, not the author, not his supervisor, and not the examiners, was paying much attention. Mike doesn't just copy-paste across chapters, he even does it within them. On page 74, the exact same passage appears twice in a row, verbatim. This pattern of duplication and error isn't just a sign of laziness. It raises serious doubts about whether much of the thesis was meaningfully reviewed at all. Mike's thesis, written in 2013, was required to comply with the APA 6th edition, the mandated style guide of East Tennessee State University's Sports Science and Coach Education Department. The thesis repeatedly fails to follow even the most basic rules of APA 6 citation and formatting. In-text citations are riddled with errors. Author groups are separated by commas instead of semicolons. Ampersands are replaced with and. Commas and periods are frequently misplaced or omitted. Punctuation appears before citations instead of after them. And bizarre constructions appear with inexplicable doubling up of brackets and periods. The problems don't end with citations in the body text. The reference lists themselves are an untamed mess. Across 4 separate bibliographies, Mike fails to italicize journal names, misformats volume and issue numbers, botches page ranges, uses commas where colons should be, and vice versa, inconsistently applies punctuation after journal titles, and freely oscillates between different spacing conventions. One reference alone, Cormier et al. 2010C, manages to misspell science as sense.
Some of this seems like it's explainable with his ADHD.
List a physically impossible page range, implying that the article ends before it begins. It omits necessary spacing after punctuation, and it inserts a comma before the final period for good measure. This exact citation appears uncorrected on pages 52, 78, and 109. Such duplications not only reinforce the impression of thoughtless copy-pasting, but point to a total collapse of any editorial review process. Basic spelling errors are everywhere. Mike misspells the word vertical as vetical or vetrical, individual as invididual, properties as propertites, biomechanics as biomechanins, neural as neural, training as traininiger, science as sense, as already noted, and exercise as exercise or exercise. Even worse are the misspelled names of cited researchers. Argard repeatedly becomes either Argard with a missing A or Argard. Claessens turns into Claessenseat, and Haldeman is rendered without its final N. The journal title, European Journal of Applied Physiology, is mangled more than once, notably as European Journal Applied of Physiology. Perhaps the most common mechanical failure in the thesis is Mike's inability or refusal to press the spacebar. Missing spaces between words and after punctuation are so frequent, it's as if the spacebar was rationed. They're everywhere. By the time you encounter the 100th instance, you're no longer wondering how they slipped through. You're wondering if Mike's keyboard was partially submerged in cement. On page 96, Mike claims to summarize the results of an investigation as illustrated in Table 3.4. However, a quick glance at Table 3.4, located on page 46, reveals a complete disconnect between the text and the table it purports to describe. The text on page 96 discusses a comparison of athletes based on their lean body mass, 2% fat ratio, but Table 3.4 presents anthropometric data for athletes grouped by their performance in the allometrically scaled isometric mid-thigh pull. Mike likely meant Table 5.5, not Table 3.4. Grammatical errors are everywhere. One of the most persistent problems is subject-verb agreement. The plural noun, data, is repeatedly paired with singular verbs. Data was extracted. Data was assessed. The data was statistically analysed, though he does occasionally get it right elsewhere. Sentence construction is similarly broken. Consider break the path to a further elucidation, a muddled idiom that actually reverses its intended meaning. This purpose of this review is to blah blah blah. Allows of the examination of. On page 77, we get the phrase does not shed skepticism. Mike probably meant cast doubt. On page 97, he writes of no counter-expected directions of association. Usually one just says unexpected. Punctuation is similarly chaotic. Semicolons are used where colons are required, redundant ellipses appear after, etc., and periods appear in the wrong places. Hyphenation is inconsistent and often incorrect. Terms like outperform with a hyphen, well-trained with no hyphen, and p-value with no hyphen violate both standard and APA-specific conventions. In the appendices, Mike Stone is identified as the principal investigator, spelled P-L-E, from pages 125 to 133, before suddenly becoming the correctly spelled principal investigator, P-A-L, from pages 137 onward. And on the very last page, Mike's own CV, the formatting of his listed publications contains APA errors. In the acknowledgements, Mike Stone is thanked for the best scientific mentor he's ever had. Mike likely meant for being the best scientific mentor he's ever had. On the next line, Mike writes Mizuguchi for as one word. Mike then thanks his friends for tolerating his attitude on his so-called low-carb dissertation writing days. Judging by both the content of the dissertation as well as his physique at the time it was written, one might reasonably infer that such days were few and far between. The cumulative effect of all of these mistakes, copy-pasted sections, corrupted data...
Like, what? He says this and he's fat.
Data, inconsistent citations, mangled references, typos, grammatical errors, and formatting violations. This really goes beyond acceptable oversight. While Mike's dissertation draws a plausible conclusion that leaner, stronger, and more muscular athletes tend to perform better, it falls short in yet another critical scholarly domain. It doesn't demonstrate that the methods used are appropriate, nor does it exhibit a clear understanding of their principles, strengths, and limitations. Nowhere is this clearer than in the treatment of the extreme group comparisons, which are used repeatedly throughout chapters 3, 4, and 5. In each case, Mike selects the top and bottom 5 performers from each of 4 sports, and discards the middle 50% of the sample. This is a bold analytical decision, particularly in a dataset of only 80 athletes. Yet the only explanation offered is that this was done, and I quote, to allow elucidation of relationships between fitness characteristics that illustrated meaningful differences by obviating the majority of athletes that performed close to the mean. An additional reason for such selection was to counterbalance each group against sport and sex type, as the groups have equal numbers of athletes from each sport as well as equal numbers of athletes of the same sex. This explanation is repeated across the thesis 3 times with the exact same wording and without elaboration. What's missing is a discussion of why removing the middle 50% is the best approach to identify meaningful relationships. Couldn't those average performers have contributed valuable information to a more nuanced analysis? What are the trade-offs involved in narrowing the sample in this way? Why not use regression models that preserve the full dataset and allow for statistical control of sex and sport, instead of manually balancing the groups? These are questions that naturally arise and ought to be anticipated in a rigorous defense of the method. Instead, they go unaddressed.
Yeah, it seems like he has crippling ADHD, and he literally copy-pasted shit over and over and over again so he wouldn't have to do more work.
The absence of methodological reflection in the thesis extends beyond sampling decisions. Bonferroni adjustments, a statistical method used to reduce the risk of false positives when multiple comparisons are made, appear to be applied inconsistently and reported unevenly. While Chapter 5 includes a clear, albeit brief explanation of when and why the adjustment is used, earlier chapters lack this clarity. Across the thesis, there's no consistent rationale for when these adjustments are applied, nor any broader reflection on how these statistical choices affect the validity and interpretation of the findings. Similarly, Mike's thesis reports effect sizes alongside p-values, but often gives substantial rhetorical weight to non-significant findings with moderate or small, non-trivial effect sizes, without clarifying how such differences should be interpreted in the broader evidentiary hierarchy of the study. None of this is to suggest that the thesis's analytical choices are necessarily unsound. Rather, the main issue is that Mike's thesis lacks a dedicated discussion, a page or two, at least, where such choices are confronted and defended openly. A section titled, say, On the Appropriateness of the Methods Used could have addressed why specific analytical strategies were chosen, what their limitations were, and how the findings should be interpreted in the light of those limitations. Without this, the dissertation comes across as methodologically opaque. The consequence is a thesis whose conclusions, however plausible, rest on foundations that haven't been clearly shown to be secure. This alone is sufficient grounds for the thesis to be sent back for revision. A doctoral thesis has to demonstrate deep, critical engagement with a complex body of knowledge. Mike's thesis doesn't. His literature review is superficial, his use of sources is marred by consistent misrepresentation, and his central claims rest on an artificial research gap.
Lonerbox believes in a 2-state solution. How long has that been tried at this point? I think that position is a little silly. Given they've had close to 100 years to try that. I don't know how you're going to what's the solution? Hey everybody, why don't y'all just get along? Okay, dude, that's he's very optimistic. There's a reason Hamas was in power for all this time. There's a reason they got elected in the first place. And there's a reason why all of these Arab Muslim nations are fucking shitholes that constantly attack each other. The idea that you can have a 2-state solution in the region is not, it's just not realistic and pragmatic. Usually when people are looking at the issue, they're looking at it from a very Western, Westernized lens. Western people have figured out how to get along with people that they don't agree with. Arab Muslims have not figured that out. And if you're dealing with people who haven't figured out how to get along with people who differ ideologically from you, this idea that you can have a 2-state solution and just get along, it's just fucking retarded. There has to be like just a change in Islam itself, the ideology, where they get rid of these ideas of like Islam being superior, the only way, everyone's a kafir. Like you have to get rid of the concept of jihad, like in order to like have a two-state solution really be viable, because like these people are just crazy. Like they're insane. They want their children to die in a war against Israel because they think it'll ensure that they'll get into heaven. Like, when you're living next to people who think like that, why do you think a two-state solution is viable?
Mike's literature review in Chapter 2 is superficial. Chapter 2 reads as a descriptive summary of findings from various studies, rather than a critical synthesis. For example, when discussing anthropometry, he simply lists which body types succeed in various sports, without examining the methodologies of the cited studies, addressing conflicting findings, nor offering a nuanced interpretation. And this pattern persists across all topics, be it body composition, strength and power, or vertical jump height, where the discussion never goes beyond, well, this study found such and such, with no deeper analysis. At the end of his literature review, Mike notes that few studies have examined multiple variables' impact on sport performance. This line hints at the start of a substantive analysis, but it never materializes. Mike neither identifies such studies nor critiques their limitations, nor does he explain how his own thesis will address them. The assertion is left undeveloped, which is disappointing, because without any supporting evidence, the reader is left with no confidence in Mike's claims about the existence of a research gap. Overall, Mike's literature review functions as a perfunctory survey, rather than a springboard for his research. Where Mike does attempt to identify a research gap, his argument is unsubstantiated and appears to be constructed through the misattribution of claims to his cited sources. On pages 33 and 38, he asserts that there's a paucity of data in his research area, without evidence or elaboration. On page 13, Mike makes two assertions to frame his study. First, that the research on technique and fitness characteristics variables is much less unified than research on psychological variables. And second,
Son Goku to Nutellers, you're more scientifically literate than me, so I thought I'd... As is Andrew Wilson correct here?
We can look at psychology itself. Psychology itself is a soft science. It's not a real science. It's a...
Psychology is nonsense, and the field is... It's becoming overwhelmed by idiot left-wing women. And a lot of psychology has been geared towards... trying to help women in particular as well, and it's because the field is kind of getting more and more dominated by women, and a lot of psychology focuses on treating women because women are like have a higher likelihood of psychiatric disorders, so like depression, anxiety, shit like that. So the entire field of psychology basically ignores how to help men. And since a lot of psychology is being dominated by women, you end up having these people with some of the most ridiculous, stupid fucking ideas promoting complete and utter horseshit. And yeah, it's a soft science. You're basically like one of the big fundamental issues with psychology is it's practically impossible to test any hypothesis. You're relying on people's feelings, and you can't know what actually is causing a disorder. Like, they're so multifactorial. There's no way to set up, like, randomized placebo-controlled trials unless it's, drug treatments. So when you're dealing with things like, lifestyle interventions, trying to like see if like certain ways of thinking will help somebody, it's all hypothesis, and there's no way to actually prove any principle in psychology.
Soft science. Just like the medical field, it's a soft science. And so we can't reproduce most of the data which is inside of psychology. We can't reproduce its massive reproduction.
I don't know how he says the medical field is a soft science. It's not.
Crisis.
So you don't believe in psychology?
Stop talking. I'm almost done. Up to 70% of the studies can't be reproduced in psychology. Sociology is terrible with the same exact problem across the board. The question becomes, with psychology itself and psychologists, they're practicing a soft science. What are the benefits that you're getting from a psychologist that you wouldn't get from a buddy? You would say that they have some sort of scientific training. I would argue that if the science itself can't be reproduced, then it's not scientific at all, and they're basically just renting a buddy.
Yeah, it's true. You're paying somebody for expertise that relies on pure hypothesis. There's no proven method to alleviate somebody's, condition like depression. So yeah, he's mostly right there. Thanks for the donation, Son Goku. Dodo, donate $2, please watch.
It's like, lady, didn't your husband just get his face blown off like 2 seconds ago? And not to be insensitive about it, but everyone...
Yeah, she doesn't care about her husband. She immediately started, grifting online to make money. She did not give two fucking shits about her husband.
Everyone's thinking it. No one wants to be the asshole. No one wants to say it. Everyone's thinking it. Everyone was thinking it when she gave the first speech. Everyone was definitely thinking it at the memorial. Nobody wants to say it because it's inappropriate. It's insensitive. I am the troll, right? So I'll be the one to say it. I think it's super inappropriate. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's weird. It's bizarre. Something is off there, and I don't like it. But they're doing the Super Bowl commentators with the headsets on, doing a media table. They're selling merch, registering voters. They got pyrotechnics. Is this WrestleMania or is this a funeral? What are we doing here? And then, the day after the funeral, I'm getting 500 texts and emails. Erica Kirk here. I miss him. Every time I blink, every beat of my heart. Make sure to donate. $5, $15, $25. It's like, okay. Then they're doing a show. Did you see the show today? And so prescient. I said it last night. I said, I'm getting a fake vibe. Something's off there. And people say, well, everybody grieves differently. Yeah, I don't know how much mileage we can get out of that one anymore. Something's not right there. Very bizarre.
She never cared about Charlie Kirk. She married him for money. He comes from a rich family, and he made a bunch of money off his media empire. So if anything, this probably benefits her because now she has all of her husband's assets. So she's basically just become rich. She doesn't have to ask Charlie, hey, honey, can I get a new car? Can you give me money for this? Can you give me money for that? Now she just has the money. So she never gave two shits about Charlie. That's obvious. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. But yeah, Nick's right there.
That there is very little information on the fitness characteristic differences between athletes of differing capability. For both claims, he cites two sources. Bomber and Half 2010, and a book chapter by his supervisor Mike Stone and Margaret Stone, Stone and Stone 2010. As soon as I saw that Mike used the...
I have a Samsung S20 FE, I think.
Exact same citations for each of these consecutive claims, alarm bells rang. It seemed unlikely that both statements could be supported by the same two references, and I had to double check. I'm glad I did, because an examination of these sources reveals that they don't support Mike's assertions. Starting with Bomber and Half 2010, Periodization, Theory and Methodology of Training, as the title would suggest, it's a book about the long-term cyclical structure of training. It doesn't contain any statement or analysis comparing the relative unity of research across the psychological, technical, and fitness characteristics of athletes. Citing it here is irrelevant at best and misleading at worst. As to Stone and Stone 2010, this citation refers to a chapter on resistance training modes, primarily focused on the practical differences between free weights and machines. Its scope is narrow, and the only research gap it identifies, on pages 352 through 353, relates to the specific transfer of free weights versus machine training to performance tasks. It makes no broad pronouncements about the state of the literature on fitness characteristics versus psychology. Mike has therefore attributed his thesis's foundational premise to sources that don't support it. And this isn't an isolated lapse. In fact, Mike repeatedly misrepresents the sources he cites. Let's take the very first passage of the thesis. Individual sport performance in any skill, and the differences in performance between individual athletes, is generated by a combination of three theoretical constructs: sport psychology, technique, and fitness characteristics. Bomber and Half, 2010, and then he's got that equation. Besides the grammatical error, is generated should be are generated, and the two awkwardly stacked colons, the citation is inaccurate. Bomber and Half never refer to these three elements as theoretical constructs. They describe them as factors, aspects, or abilities. Nor do they define skill as the sum of these components, nor present anything resembling Mike's pseudo-mathematical model, which, once again, is never justified later in the thesis. It's simply asserted and left unexamined. In fact, Bomber and Half present a much broader framework. On page 57 of their book, they state, all athletic programs should address the physical, technical, tactical, psychological, and theoretical aspects of training. On page 5, they list these as part of a planning sequence: performance objective, physical preparation, technical preparation, tactical preparation, psychological preparation, and theoretical preparation. Mike includes psychology, technique, and fitness, but omits tactical and theoretical preparation entirely, despite Bomber and Half devoting whole sections to them. Mike's version reduces their multifaceted model to a simplistic triad, culminating in the unsubstantiated claim on page 33 that all variation in athletic performance can be explained by these three factors. Yet, as Bomber and Half make clear, other contributors, such as strategy, environment, social dynamics, are also essential. The pattern of misrepresentation continues. On page 15, Mike writes that technique is a pure theoretical construct that is very difficult or impossible to isolate completely in the laboratory, again citing Bomber and Half. But they say no such thing. Their treatment of technique is concrete and practice-oriented. They focus on skill acquisition and its role in performance. This
Dan donates, if I donate $10, could you do an impression of RFK Jr.? I could do that for you. Thanks for the donation, Dan.
line appears to be Mike's own speculation, falsely attributed to Bomber and Half to lend it unearned authority. This is a bad look for what are literally the very first citations in the thesis. Mike not only fails to demonstrate a deep critical engagement with a complex body of knowledge, but consistently distorts other people's work and assigns his own ideas to established authorities. This pattern falls well short of the intellectual honesty and scholarly rigor expected of a PhD candidate. Mike's thesis fails to meet the threshold of care, rigor, originality, and cohesion. I've already substantiated.
Time Machine donate $2. Can we take this moment, VG, to enjoy some sweet throwbacks? Thanks. Oh, yeah. Goosebumps was cool. I like Goosebumps.
Excuse me,
I never watched this stupid cartoon.
but is this your... Good Lord, man!
Yeah, I never found that cartoon appealing.
Aren't our kids something, Dad?
Mama, there's nobody quite like him.
Chicken and Cow was cool. That was a really weird cartoon.
My science broken.
Yeah, Chicken and Cow was weird. You know, it's fucking weird. The parents only had legs, no upper body. Yeah. They had some funny fourth wall breaking jokes. Thanks for the donation, Time Machine.
The first three deficiencies: care, rigor, and originality, in previous sections. To recap, Mike's thesis distorts its cited works, manufactures a research gap from those distortions, corrupts its own data, copy-pastes entire sections without revision, contains hundreds of basic grammatical, typographical, and formatting errors, scarcely justifies its methods, fails to engage critically with relevant literature, draws strong conclusions from non-significant findings without adequate caveats, and contributes little, if anything, to the theoretical development of sports science. This final section concentrates on the remaining pillar, cohesion, which I haven't yet explored in depth. In Mike's thesis, the empirical chapters, 3, 4, and 5, are thematically linked, each exploring interrelationships among the same general set of fitness characteristics within the same cohort. The introduction, chapter 1, sets the stage, and the final chapter, chapter 6, attempts to summarize the findings. Superficially, this follows a recognizable thesis structure. But in practice, the document reads more like a loose bundle of standalone journal articles rather than a unified scholarly work. Each empirical chapter examines a different angle. Chapter 3 focuses on strength, Chapter 4 on vertical jump and sprint speed, Chapter 5 on body composition. And while all draw from the same dataset, The findings in one chapter aren't used to refine or build upon the next. There's no progressively deepening single investigation. A more cohesive thesis might have used Chapter 3's results to inform a more complex model tested in Chapter 4, and so on, or employed multivariate techniques from the outset to explore all relationships in an integrated fashion. The thesis's disjointed feel is worsened by the extensive repetition, particularly in the methodology sections. As already discussed, multi-page blocks are duplicated almost verbatim across Chapters 3, 4, and 5. The paragraph justifying the extreme group comparisons, a questionable and pivotal methodological choice, appears word for word on pages 44 through 45, 69, and 92. This isn't reiteration for clarity, it's wholesale duplication. The same grammatical structure, phrasing, and order of sentences recur without any adaptation to the specific research questions of each chapter. This cut-and-paste approach matters. It suggests laziness. Instead of tailoring the methods to the distinctive aims of each chapter, Mike treats them as interchangeable boilerplate. Instead of revising and refining his explanations, really an essential part of thoughtful scholarship, he sidesteps the process altogether. The result is not a cohesive thesis, but a mechanical assemblage that lacks both intellectual momentum and internal coherence.
You know, I'm assuming too, a lot of these professors are lazy and they have to grade so many papers. They probably didn't read Mike's PhD thesis. They probably just read the first page and then just granted him the degree.
In summary, Mike's thesis can't be said to be careful, rigorous, cohesive, or original. It fails to meet the basic standards of doctoral scholarship. There's a scene in The Theory of Everything, the Stephen Hawking biopic, where Stephen is being examined for his PhD. The examiners point out serious flaws in the first 3 chapters of his thesis, problems that would normally raise concerns. But then they get to Chapter 4, and it's so bold, so elegant, and so breathtakingly original, that the examiners basically drop their red pens and go, well, this changes everything. And just like that, Stephen earns his PhD. That can happen. If a thesis is groundbreaking enough, you can certainly overlook some mistakes. But that's precisely the problem here. Mike's thesis never delivers that moment. There's no Chapter 4 revelation. There's no towering insight that redeems what came before. Instead, we're left with pages of weak argumentation, muddled prose, copy-pasted content, basic errors, incompetent data entry, false citations, and conclusions so banal they might as well be common knowledge, that stronger athletes are more powerful and leaner athletes jump higher. If you're going to ask an examiner to look past a mountain of technical and stylistic flaws, then the work needs to repay that generosity with substance. Mike's thesis doesn't. It wants the Stephen Hawking exception, but collapses the moment you ask whether it says anything new. When judged against the formal criteria, the verdict is inescapable. Mike's engagement with the literature is superficial and uncritical. This is to say nothing of how in several instances he misrepresents the literature he cites and uses those misrepresentations to manufacture a research gap. Mike fails to demonstrate a proper understanding of the principles, strengths, and limitations of his chosen methods. And most critically, Mike neither generates original knowledge nor makes a significant contribution to his field. At best, he just replicates already well-known findings. Mike fails to show independence of thought or approach. His work is derivative, and between the incompetent data entry, the rampant copy-pasting, the convoluted writing, and the hundreds of basic grammatical, typographical, and formatting mistakes, Mike's thesis can't be said to have communicated its findings effectively. And while I can't say that Mike's research contains glaring ethical oversights, besides the careless and consistent distortions of cited works, his dissertation ultimately fails to constitute a careful, rigorous, and cohesive piece of original research. Together, these are grounds for outright failure.
Do you think Jack Higgs is a better activist than Earthling Ed? Depends on what kind of metric you're going by. Earthling Ed is just such a terrible and ineffective debater. I would say Jack is a better debater than Earthling Ed, but as far as like total outreach, Earthling Ed is a way bigger platform.
Critique is driven by a number of motivations, all converging on a single point: the need for a higher standard of intellectual integrity in how we evaluate expertise, particularly in the fitness industry, where critical thinking is in short supply, and credentials often go unquestioned. The problem is bigger than Mike. Mike's thesis didn't pass in a vacuum. It passed in an entire academic ecosystem that allowed it to. Fields with serious intellectual standards, like mathematics or classical studies, simply wouldn't let this level of work through. Yet in sports science, Mike's dissertation was deemed sufficient. This raises urgent questions. Is sports science a serious discipline, or just a diploma mill? Are the checks and balances of academia, supervision, peer review, intellectual critique, even functioning in this field? If Mike's dissertation is representative, then the answer is no. The appeal to authority is a logical fallacy that asserts that a claim is true simply because an authority figure believes it, without offering sound reasoning or solid evidence. It can also be used to dismiss criticism. Mike has a PhD, so he's right. You don't, so you're wrong. Arguments like these are intellectually lazy, and I reject them outright. If your takeaway from my critique is that Mike should be dismissed solely because he didn't attend an elite university for his postgraduate studies, then you've missed the point. This isn't an elitist argument about academic rankings. Excellent work can emerge from obscure institutions, and mediocre work can emerge from the world's top universities. My point is this. Credentials aren't arguments. A PhD in itself doesn't entitle someone to automatic deference. Expertise must be demonstrated, not presumed. And when Mike produces a sloppy dissertation, makes absurd public claims...
Who wins a debate, Moist Critical or XQC? Well, XQC. Penguin Zero couldn't even win a debate on the most easily defensible topic against Sneeko, so he's, like, literally fucking retarded.
And leans on his title to silence dissent.
You are presuming you know more than me about the thing I'm one of the top experts in the world in, and also the thing I'm literally involved in myself. So whatever ideas you have about how I can improve, just right off.
He isn't showing expertise. He's hiding behind the appearance of it. If you're determined to make appeals to authority, despite everything I've just said, then at the very least pick a better authority. Because with Mike, you can't even afford to scratch the surface. So when Mike slaps PhD approved on a product, as he did with this protein drink, just remember, it isn't a mark of trustworthiness. It's a warning label. I know I've just said that we should judge claims on their merits, not on who's making them. But in practice, that's not always how it works. Most people can't independently verify every scientific or technical assertion they encounter, and it's reasonable that they defer to experts instead. The problem is when the so-called expert isn't up to scratch. That's what makes sloppy work like Mike's a genuine issue. Mike invites trust by flashing his credentials, while quietly banking on the fact that nobody will check what's behind them. I get that a critique like mine may erode public trust in expertise, but maybe it should. If a flimsy PhD can boost the credibility of someone whose work doesn't hold up, then people are well within their rights to question those who wave around their credentials at every turn. None of this is to say that we should abandon trust in experts. It means we should be more selective about who gets to count as one. Credentials should mark the start of inquiry, not the end of it. If someone invokes his or her PhD to win arguments,
you are presuming you know more than me,
or sell products, the least we can do is ask, does the work live up to the title? If nothing else, I hope my critique highlights just how much the quality of research degrees can vary. A PhD ought to signal excellence, but in reality, the standard ranges from world-class to frankly embarrassing. By exposing the shaky foundations beneath some doctorates, my aim isn't to dismiss expertise. It's to prompt closer scrutiny of those who use the title doctor as a shield against criticism or a shameless marketing tool. Let's talk about what Mike's thesis reveals. A blueprint for how to look like an authority without being one. The playbook is simple. Enter a low-standard field at a low-ranked university. Produce work that wouldn't pass at a high-ranking institution. Then brand yourself as doctor and leverage your title at every opportunity for professional gain. Because whether your doctorate is from MIT in quantum mechanics or East Tennessee State University in sport physiology, the title doctor is conferred all the same.
Dr. Mike, geez, that's a big deal. And I've noticed that carries a lot of weight. So for me, only by signaling, if only by signaling, my PhD was a really good idea. What about doctor sense? Like, oh, so that so then the doctor is like, there's like a big deal there that does something.
But this playbook has a fatal flaw. In the digital age, a dissertation is a public, permanent, and searchable record. So if you write one as sloppy as Mike's, then you'll spend your whole career hoping it's never exposed for what it is. For peace of mind, it's better to write work you can be genuinely proud of. Work that's able to withstand scrutiny. Because who knows? One day, it may have to. Mike describes himself as an exercise scientist. If he's the exercise scientist he claims to be, then how come he isn't cautious and circumspect, like all the other scientists I've met? How is it that a purported exercise scientist with a PhD in the field can make such unscientific, irresponsible, and absurd claims as these?
You should probably train more than the pro bodybuilders you follow. An hour of extra sleep that brings you from sleeping 2 hours less than you need to 1 less than you need is unreal powerful and comparable to tons of anabolic drugs. People see striated glutes and they go, that can't be healthy. And I would love to be in real life with that person instead of over social media and say, okay, no, I hear you. Why not? If you're getting stronger week to week, you're under training.
If we go now and play football, soccer, and we run for like 10 minutes, I will be insanely sore the next day. My lower body, my adductors, quads, hamstrings. They're growing. Are they? A ton.
Well, finally, we can explain the disconnect. The chasm between Mike's title and his behavior prompts the very question this critique has answered. What is Mike's PhD? What authority does it truly confer? The answer is that it confers authority only so long as no one actually reads it. Last, this analysis belongs to a larger project of understanding Mike Israetel's delusions of grandeur. Mike Israetel speaks as if he's a towering intellect in the fitness space.
I'm both on a raw IQ scale smarter than almost every coach, maybe every coach. And I know more about physiology, body responses, etc., than they do.
You've never met anyone with as much willpower as me. And whatever it is you think you're good at in your life, I'd probably take about a year and become an authority in the field in which you think you're good. And also in every category of human behavior, I'm tougher than you. I can train closer to failure than you. I can do it for longer. I have more willpower than you. I'm funnier than you. I'm smarter than you. I'm better at being than you. So if you talk to me about anything with resistance training and hypertrophy, yes, I consider myself to be one of the world's preeminent experts on all of that, especially in its application and interaction with science. I make no excuses for that. I will debate anyone in the world about that. That's easy.
I haven't met a whole lot of people in the bodybuilding industry with whose raw intellect I was.
This guy is just like a dickhead. Just a complete fucking cunt.
Blown away.
You are presuming you know more than me about the thing I'm one of the top experts in the world in, and also the thing I'm literally involved in myself. So whatever ideas you have about how I can improve, just right off. Because I've taken enough IQ tests, and you can only write so many books and be on so many podcasts until people are like, you're pretty smart. I've taken the Ravens Advanced Progressive Matrices test, and I pegged at scale high. So I get every single question right. And so my IQ is above 160. We don't know how high because they don't do standardized IQ tests above that.
Yeah,
you do that enough times, enough PhD programs, book.
This is the same guy who said daily alcohol consumption is good for you. I'm not even kidding. He literally said drinking wine every night is good for you and has health benefits. And this is right after the Surgeon General's warning saying that no amount of alcohol consumption has any health benefit, and it only increases your risk of early death and cancer.
Book, enough teaching awards, enough authorships, enough all this stuff, enough millions and app designs and all this stuff, and dealing with otherwise really smart people, and they walk away being like, that guy's real smart. I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Menzer. That's it. Yeah. So all of a sudden, that changed the game. I'm more educated than Mike Menzer. I know more things than Mike Menzer. I have very elite genetics, not swagger. It's just stating a fact.
There's a very high probability that I'm much better at making fun of people than you are. As a matter of fact, I can sit face to face with you and slam dunk on your entire life. It'd just be real bad news. Things I wouldn't even feel comfortable saying that are just true about you.
Because the amount of just backslapping intellectual just overkill I can push onto them, they just have no idea how far afield they are of their abilities.
I'll just settle for being a, jiu-jitsu killer, famous millionaire.
Am I a perfectionist asshole with a PhD? Yeah, hell yeah, that's why I say like that.
People are like, it's like, what do girls like in a guy? And a ton of girls, as well as a ton of older people, would say intelligence. That's the biggest lie I've ever been told in my life. What? Nobody out here likes intelligence? Are you kidding me? Like, if girls liked intelligence, I'd be swimming in that from day one. I've never met a single girl who I was convinced was actually attracted to intelligence.
The irony is that the very thing which, in Mike's own mind, confirms his superiority, his PhD, actually reveals the opposite when examined closely. Mike hasn't demonstrated mastery, even in his own domain, let alone anyone else's.
Yeah, he sucks at jiu-jitsu. I'm questioning whether or not he actually has a real black belt.
The purpose of this critique was to place Mike Israetel's PhD thesis under the microscope of the academic scrutiny it should have faced in 2013. My conclusion is undeniable. Mike Israetel's PhD thesis is a failure. It's a work built on a non-existent research gap, lazily pursued with a poorly justified methodology, and culminating in findings that aren't just unremarkable, but are, by Mike's own admission, unoriginal. These core intellectual failings are amplified by a staggering lack of scholarly diligence. Mike's PhD thesis is a morass of conceptual confusion, stylistic pretension, distortions of cited works, and basic errors. It's less a work of scholarship and more an exercise in academic masquerade. A PhD thesis is supposed to signify the creation of new knowledge. It's a testament to an individual's ability to think critically, originally, and rigorously. Mike Israetel's PhD thesis doesn't celebrate these values. It betrays them. It's a work that leverages the language of science to say nothing new, and its successful submission represents a systemic failure of academic quality control. Ultimately, Mike's PhD thesis is the key to understanding the disconnect between the persona and the reality. Mike Israetel presents himself as a formidable intellect, a top expert whose authority is secured by the highest academic qualification. And yet the primary evidence for that authority, the dissertation itself, crumbles under the slightest pressure, revealing not the masterful work of a scholar, but the careless and derivative output of a candidate who didn't put in the necessary effort. This isn't an appeal to a higher standard. It's an appeal to the minimum standard. The fitness community, and anyone who values intellectual honesty, deserve better than this.
Hey, Solomon Nelson, we're training at 3 o'clock today, and you said, oh my gosh,
Mike's a fucking clown.
Nearly finished port at Anaklia could soon redefine power dynamics in the Black Sea. It's designed to link with global supply chains and turn Georgia into a gateway between Europe and Asia. But just an hour's sail down the coast, Russia is preparing its countermove in Ochamchira, a town in Abkhazia where Russian-backed separatists hold power. Unlike Moscow's bases in Sevastopol and Novorossiysk, Ochamchira sits at a safer distance from the Ukrainian battlefield. From this vantage point, the new base can shadow Anaklia, disrupt shipping, and project influence across the Black Sea. NATO, however, is not standing still. It is methodically laying down new infrastructure to turn the western coast of the Black Sea into a fortress. By 2030, a new airbase near Constanta in Romania is set to become NATO's primary hub on the Black Sea, and the largest base of its kind anywhere in Europe. Costing about 2.5 billion euros, the base is designed to host thousands of troops, advanced aircraft, and missile defenses, effectively transforming Romania into the frontline state of the alliance. All across the Black Sea region, there is a silent war for control. Ports, roads, and railways matter as much as fleets and armies. These developments have reduced Russia's leverage to a generational low, creating a power vacuum in the process. That's how it goes, for when giants stumble, the margins of the map come alive. 2026 is around the corner, and AI is already the skill of the decade, with tech giants poaching talent left and right. Outskill helps you stay ahead by mastering these skills. It is the world's first AI-focused education platform. 4.9 days, you'll go from... The Black Sea is the cornerstone of Russian power projection. It shields against foreign encroachment, underpins regional influence, and secures trade flows. Energy is at the core of this activity. Oil and oil products make up the majority of shipments from Novorossiysk, while undersea pipelines transport natural gas to Turkey and onward to southeastern Europe. Agriculture adds another layer. Most of Russia's grain, fertilizer, and other commodities move through these waters. And in recent years, the sea has hosted Russia's shadow fleet of unregistered tankers, a tool used to circumvent sanctions and keep revenues flowing. Beyond commerce, the sea doubles as a platform for projecting influence into the Caucasus, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. Taken together, the Black Sea represents the core of Russia's energy, agriculture, sanctions evasion, and military reach. To secure this strategic space, the Kremlin seeks to make the nearby smaller states subservient to its interests. Persuasion and coercion play a role, but hard power has always been the more reliable tool. Between 2008 and 2022, the Kremlin steadily expanded its grip along the Black Sea shorelines, precisely with the use of brute force. Abkhazia was brought under Russian control following the 2008 war with Georgia. Crimea was annexed in 2014, placing the naval bastion of Sevastopol firmly under Russian control. Later, in 2022, Russian forces seized even more of Ukraine's coastline by the Sea of Azov. Although the Ukrainians have prevented Moscow from seizing their entire coastline, Russia has nonetheless expanded its reach. Over the past 2 decades, it has tripled the length of its de facto coastline. Turkey stands out as the main counterbalance to Russia's ambitions. As a NATO member, it has both the will and the means to match Moscow's influence. The Turks have helped arm Ukraine and refused to recognize the annexation of Crimea. They've also backed defense modernization programs in both Bulgaria and Romania. NATO, meanwhile, is expanding its footprint. Alongside the new airbase near Constanta, Bulgaria is being reinforced with upgraded runways, enhanced surveillance, and new coastal air defenses. Together, these forward bases restrain Moscow's ability to dominate the region. By any measure, the Black Sea is emerging as the focal point of Eurasian security. Georgia and Moldova, however, are the weak spots of the region. This vulnerability is reinforced on the ground. Russian troops are stationed in separatist enclaves in both countries, giving the Kremlin direct influence over their politics. In Georgia, the ruling party has leaned toward Moscow, halting EU accession talks in 2024 and passing laws that restrict speech and assembly. Many Georgians reluctantly go along, fearing that moving closer to the west could trigger another Russian invasion. At the same time, in Moldova, pro-Western lawmakers have controlled the government in recent years. But the Kremlin is now lobbying to sway the 2025 parliamentary elections in favor of pro-Russian parties. Yet, despite these advances, Russia's hold is far from absolute. Its ability to dictate outcomes has weakened substantially since 2022. Conflicts and sanctions have depleted resources that were previously used to buy influence across the region. Ukrainian drone and missile strikes have crippled much of the Black Sea fleet, denying Moscow complete control of the sea. And Turkey's closure of its straits has barred Russian warships from the Mediterranean, cutting off a key route for power projection into the Middle East. Seen in full, the empire's strength is past its prime, and the neighbors smell opportunity. Russia's setbacks have triggered reverberations across the region. Bulgaria, Georgia, and Romania are building an underwater cable to bypass Russia and connect Azerbaijan's renewable energy directly to Europe's power grid. Simultaneously, Romania is developing its own offshore gas facilities in the Black Sea, which could soon make it one of the EU's largest producers. Turkey is moving in a similar direction. The discovery of the Sakarya field is set to turn the country into a major energy supplier. Meanwhile, in Syria, the fall of al-Assad in late 2024 forced Russia to abandon the Tartus naval base, while the future of Khmeimim Air Base remains uncertain despite continued Russian control. Yet perhaps the most telling setback is the emergence of the Middle Corridor. This multimodal trade route runs from China across Central Asia, over the Caspian Sea, and through Azerbaijan and Georgia before reaching Europe via Turkey's railways and ports. Compared to traditional routes, it cuts some 7,000 kilometers and reduces transit times from 2 months to just 2 weeks. Just as important, it avoids volatile, high-risk places such as Russia, Iran, and Afghanistan, and bypasses choke points like the Malacca Strait. Before the Ukraine war, more than 85% of European Chinese land trade passed through Russia. But with those routes disrupted, the Middle Corridor has emerged as the main alternative. Key to its success is the Caspian Sea, and by extension, the Caucasus and the Black Sea. Here, the political winds have shifted considerably in recent years, and infrastructure projects are mounting. Kazakhstan has opened new seaports, Azerbaijan has constructed new airports, Armenia is playing a game of chess. Every move along the periphery is met with a counter-move. In Georgia, the port at Anakliya is meant to increase the speed and capacity of the Middle Corridor. Currently, the corridor handles less than 3 million tons of cargo annually, but with new infrastructure, the World Bank projects that this volume could increase to 11 million tons by 2030. Russia's naval base in Ochamchira is designed to undercut this project, while its grip over Abkhazia and South Ossetia serves as a reminder to Tbilisi U.S. sponsorship.
Whatever.
Here, at end. So we decide to fly there ourselves and see the sudden greeting of the desert. We start making plans, but soon we realize it's not going to.
Here we are, another.
What else is there to do?
Joined Leguminati and just wanted to voice appreciation. You and Gary helped a lot when I went vegan 9 years ago. Also on stream you always responded to my questions and tried to help. Above all, you're a good guy, so thanks, bro.
Alright, well, appreciate the support, Sir William Squire von Dutch M. And appreciate the donation, dude. Greta donated $2.
A boat carrying activist Greta Thunberg bound for Gaza has been damaged in what's been described as a drone strike. The global Sumud flotilla says it was struck by what is suspected.
This was just the flare they set off, right?
To be a
yeah, this is old news. This is 3 weeks ago, dude.
Shoot him, shoot him, shoot him, just shoot him. Communication, shoot him.
Does this look like the conversation?
Yeah, you're not going to get scurvy. Because the thing is, too, from a protein standpoint, the reason that you get scurvy without vitamin C is because vitamin C helps catalyzes a reaction that hydrolyzes proline and lysine. And so you need hydrolyzed proline and lysine to make tightly bonded collagen. But you get hydrolyzed proline and lysine from eating meat. It's only you get the unhydrolyzed from eating plants or making it de novo. So you don't.
Everything he's saying is just pseudoscientific nonsense. Vitamin C is an essential nutrient.
You don't actually need the vitamin C. Like you won't get scurvy with no vitamin C. You'll still not get scurvy as long as you're eating meat. And you do get some. You do get some from meat. And you definitely get a lot from liver. Liver has more vitamin C than most apples, and like a lot more, like 4 or 5 times more.
Yeah, this guy is insane fucktard. Thanks for the donation, Greta.
No. I see you eyes and posture. No getting sleepy, we have 3 hours left and a lot of Hamza and Kino body to watch. Why don't we watch more Kino?
Yeah, maybe we could check up on Kina Buddy. Thanks for the donation, dumbass.
That somebody had when they're sober. I have to lock myself in the room. How much worse could it get than this? Coach Watson. Apparently, Wes Watson has been sniffing so much creatine continuously that he's starting to lose all of his gains. Bro.
I sucked a big black dick today. It was tasty. I also fucked Gig's mom in the ass after that. She was mid. Eat my short coke.
All right, well, thanks for the donation, Cat Daddy. Appreciate that.
We know, or at least we think we know, that he uses performance-enhancing drugs, namely testosterone, and that helped him to gain a lot of muscle. Now, in the past, he stated he's 6 feet tall. We know that to be a lie. He's closer to 5'8", and he weighs over 200 pounds, and so that is a very large man. But as of late, if you look at his physique, he's clearly downsized. Now, he is fairly lean, but that's what you expect, because when you sniff creatine, one of the side effects is a dramatic decrease in appetite. And so if you're not eating the calories because you're not hungry, you're going to lose a lot of muscle. And so some of you may be thinking, oh, he's probably just on Ozempic. No, he's not on Ozempic. He's on creatine, but he's sniffing it, if you know what I'm saying. If you do want to go on Ozempic or tirzepatide or other medications, you can go to AlgoRx. Doctors will prescribe you medications at AlgoRx, and it's very easy to get. It's very cheap, and recently uploaded a video. It got taken down. Apparently, Wes Watson is trying to sue him. And so Wes Watson, in his newest video, he keeps on yapping about how John Bravo keeps talking about other men that he can't get him out of his mouth. Now, perhaps Peggy Watson would enjoy him being in his mouth. Dink, 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 dink. But there's nothing wrong with talking about other people. I mean, does Wes Watson think he's Cali Muscle? Oh, bro is talking about me. What's wrong with you? You're lucky he's talking about you, or nobody else would care. Except, of course, John Doherty, the only man that you seem to be friends with that you can collaborate with. And why are you even doing this? Is bro paying you? On top of this, we know that he's had problems with his Sharmuta girlfriend. He doesn't enjoy the fact that she doesn't want to put his peg in her mouth often enough when she greets him at the door. And so he has a meltdown. And remember, Wes Watson, is he not the man who went to jail and got out and says he doesn't have any vices? You know, he doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't do recreational drugs. He doesn't do any of those things because he's a real man. Well, why is he then out at strip clubs and drinking alcohol? And watch his behavior as he speaks. Like, look at him talking and doing the gang signs. Does he look like he is sober? I'm asking you the question. Does he look sober? What do you think he looks like he's on?
His whole life is crumbling down harder than what we know he's got going on in his pants.
And you remember that naked video that came out where it was showing his reflection and everyone saw what he was packing?
Oh my God!
Last I checked, and I did check with ChatGPT, can sniffing creatine make it more difficult for the downstairs to function properly? And the answer is yes, yes it can. It's a very common side effect. And so perhaps he's been so strung out that he's not consuming enough food, he's not drinking enough water, there's not enough dilation in that area, and so it's smaller than last time. Now, normally I would say, hey, just pick up some harder than last time, but I feel like this would not be strong enough for him. If you just need basic needs, you're not sniffing creatine, then this, I'm sure, can work for you. And remember, code reg 15% off.
I'm at the house, and I'm wanting my cock, and I can't get my cock, so I'm pissed.
And so because she's not a sucking machine, even though she's a Sharmuta, apparently she doesn't suck anything often enough, the suckers, licorice, or whatever she likes to suck, it's not often enough, and so he's very disappointed by this.
Something bad happened. He caught him sliding into his Sharmuta's DMs to be by her side.
And so he kicked his girlfriend out because apparently she was talking to one of his bros, kicked her out with the kid and everything. Things went downward.
He kicked her out on the street and locked her outside of the house with her kids. But it gets worse.
And so he locks her out of the house in the backyard. I don't know if that's called kidnapping. I don't know exactly what this is. But a normal adult male doesn't do that to their girlfriend, whether it's a Sharmuta girlfriend or not, especially with a toddler. I mean, is this normal adult behavior that you would see from somebody who's sober? I mean, well, I suppose it's Wes Watson, a man who beats a man when he's down, thinks it's self-defense, a man who's most likely going to jail. And so you never know.
The guy behind us thought that we were really going to back into him. Like as if someone pulls in front of your shit bucket and they're in a Phantom and they're going to back into the front of you.
Does this look like the conversation that somebody had when they're sober? I mean, perhaps you've been at a party at 4 in the morning and you see the way people talk. And so I'm asking you, does this look normal? Or is Wes Watson crashing out? Is he, in fact, strung out?
Tell Fonzo all the time, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him, just shoot him. Can you shoot him?
I mean, does that sound like a normal conversation? And he wants to shoot someone who he thinks may back up into his car. He might. I don't know.
The love was there, I had love for him as a person, but the attraction faded away because the things that I admired in him were not there.
So by what he had that he's lost, he's talking about his money. I mean, is this not his Sharmuta girlfriend? The most important trait is the thickness of his wallet. And so remember, Wes Watson, he ain't 6 foot tall, he's 5'8", but he is in fact 6 feet tall when he's sitting on his wallet, or well, at least he formerly was. And so when the money starts to run dry, well, She's going somewhere else. And so notice in this photo just how sunk in his face is. He's a lot smaller in clothing, walking around. He has less fullness. And why don't we just look at The Rock right now? In comparison, The Rock has lost about 60 pounds to play a character, a chicken man in his latest movie. Many people saying he looks like a cancer patient. He's very skinny. He's gone. His face is sagging. He's lost a significant amount of muscle. And so does Wes Watson not seem to have the exact same thing happening? All I'm really seeing are veins. I mean, there's some muscle left, but I see more veins than muscles at this point. And so audio leaked. Now, apparently, Wes Watson now wants to end his sharmuta. He broke into my house last week and the police did nothing. He harasses me just to toy with me, knowing I need help. I'm tired of this. I'm posting this so it can end. And so does this not seem the behavior of somebody who's strung out, who's on a downward spiral?
I've never seen some shit like this in my life. And the thing is, they're posting this all on social media.
F you, manipulative piece of shit. I will just give the money you need to some other bitch. Only way you will learn is to get what you give. The money that he's giving her, he now wants to give to another woman because she doesn't want to perhaps give oral pleasures to somewhere on his body that perhaps she doesn't want to go, or perhaps she can't find. Stupid turking tard, do you try to drive me insane with this shit? No help. You chose to be unreasonable. Okay, let's say she's not reasonable. She's his sharmuta girlfriend. She wants him to use her oral pleasures to satisfy him, and she doesn't want to do it often enough or whatever. And so, move on. Where's the problem? Why is he continuing to call her? Why is he continuing to harass her? Why is he continuing to have any contact with her at all? You end the relationship and you move on. What is wrong with that? But no. And so do you really think that it's her that can't get enough of him, that she just needs him that bad? Or do you not think it's the opposite?
15 minutes after my video, remember, he's a fan. He posted this.
When you see people online make videos about other men all day.
Again with the, you're making a video about another man. Now, Wes, hear me out. You're making a video about John. Like twice now. This is 2 videos in a row. John makes videos about you and you don't like it, and then you make videos about him. Every time you make a video about John, it adds more fuel to the fire. He has more content to talk about. His last video went viral, which apparently you had someone take down. Why not just talk about him in the first place? I mean, do you think that The Rock talks about every single person that makes a video about him? I mean, how many times has The Rock written Coach Greg and said, you know what, Greg, could you stop talking about me? It doesn't happen. And so if you're so cool, you're so hot, why do you care? And so it's going back and forth. You're reciprocating exactly what he's doing.
I don't know. He might go to jail, or I don't know. I really hope he does. Just so he could get a lesson.
If I went back with an ex-girlfriend who broke up with me and I went back with her, I would hope that it's because she actually likes me. If you're paying that girl, it could be because of the money. I mean, that's a possibility, Wes. It's possibly the money. Now, when you say, I hope he goes to jail, he deserves it, she probably doesn't like you much. Most people who really like you, let's say they love you, they don't want you to go to jail for whatever amount of years because they would miss you. If they don't care about you, they probably would say something like, yeah, I hope he goes to jail. And so, what do you think it is? Do you think she likes you? Or do you think she wants you to go to jail?
You didn't kiss me when you walk out of the room. That's it. I'm not helping you. I'm not doing anything for you. You can't do a simple thing of kissing me when you walk out the room or greet me when I come in.
If the deal between you is he pays you X amount of dollars and that requires a kiss every time that you leave the room or he leaves the room, and upon seeing him greeting him at the door, he has to pull his pants down and you have to go to work, well, that's your agreement. We don't have anything to say with that. Hey, whatever works for you.
I'm sick of somebody trying to put me down when I'm trying so hard to take care of kids, to take care of this guy's weird sexual needs.
But if you don't like it, there's the door. I don't understand this. Why are you complaining? Why is he complaining? Both of you would make no sense. You don't like a lot of things about him, but yet you go back to him, and he doesn't like a lot about you, and yet he goes back to you. You both have avoidance attachment styles. You both need to move on. Stop trying to make a doomed relationship.
She's... So, like, this is just ridiculous.
Jirian City, Egypt. Would you go there? To Jirian City, would you ride there, Jirian City?
No, thanks for the donation. Like, Wes Watson claims to be this high-value man. He's dating a fucking single mom. And this fucking dumb bitch keeps complaining about Wes Watson. He's abusive, he's doing this, he's doing that, then fucking leave. So she's just hanging around him for money because she's too lazy to fucking work. Like, it's just hilarious. These are both fucking losers who are stuck together because Wes can't get any pussy unless it's a fucking single mom who's a whore. And this bitch is too lazy to fucking work, so she sticks around this abusive asshole. Just fucking, like, they're both fucking losers.
Work. And wasn't he looking through your phone? He probably has an anxious avoidance attachment style. This is no good. This is the hardest relationships to work on. Perhaps 5% of the world are people like this. These are persons you need to stay clear of.
He called her phone every minute, every hour of the day, not just on one number, because you know you put one number, you block it.
I mean, when you start calling somebody more than 100 times, I think that probably the over-under is single digits. Like, if you call someone more than 10 times, they're going to think you're a psychopath. If they don't want to talk to you, they don't want to talk to you. This is how it works. If a woman wants you, she's going to make it easier for you. So, for example, if you're trying to take a girl on a date and she cancels on this date, or she doesn't show up and she makes an excuse later and say, next time. There's no next time. If she wanted to make it happen, she would make it happen. And so if she wanted to answer the phone, she would answer the phone. This is so simple, but yet people, they're illogical. They start making every excuse in the book. Oh, maybe her phone is turned off. Maybe she fell asleep. And so for the next 12 hours, I'm going to keep calling her every 10 minutes of the day. You could call and leave a message once and say, hey, when you're free, get back to me. That's it. If it's a week, it's a week. Whatever.
I hope he overdosed or killed myself. Like, I don't know.
I don't know how much that person likes you if they're hoping that you're no longer with us. I feel like that's very severe. And so his way of getting back to her is saying, hey, look, you're my sharmuta. I don't know what he's paying her. And he says, look, see this money? I'm paying it to other sharmutas, not you. And so I want you as my primary sharmuta, but I'm going to give this money to someone else. And so you better answer the phone. Maybe she doesn't need the money. Maybe she's got another man with more money. Do you ever think of that?
I can't live here anymore. You're doing drugs.
And so in case you think I'm just talking out of my ass, kind of like a catabolic twig, they make up stories, make up theories. Oh, I think this, coming with receipts. And so when I said he's probably sniffing creatine and that's causing him to lose a muscle, he's not getting the proper calories and so on, he's strung out. How is he going to train effectively when he's always high? Let's listen to this.
I don't want Loon to pick up your baggies of cocaine. You flip out like as his nose is bleeding.
Doing drugs, including creatine being sniffed, causing his nose to bleed. I mean, is that not evidence that he's perhaps sniffing creatine? When she literally says it.
I've just been trying to save up money or hustle him for what, not even hustle him, dude, just doing whatever I can just to have him give me money.
I mean, is she just putting herself out there? I'm hustling him. This is not a normal relationship. You don't want your girlfriend to hustle you for cash. He is mad that I won't go to his house alone. Last time I was there, he had a thing you can pull the trigger on, and I don't trust him. I mean, don't go then. Like, why are you talking to this man?
He's been worse than ever, and then...
Like, it's kind of hilarious. Everybody acts like these women are victims and, oh, they're getting abused. They can leave whenever the fuck they want. So they're getting something from these men. It's usually money. So, you know, they can make their own choices. Who cares?
I have to lock myself in the room.
How much worse could it get than this? I mean, do you not think you could find someone else that would be maybe equal or a little bit better? And so if you're in a toxic relationship right now, you're unhappy. On a scale of 1 to 10, your happiness scale is below a 5. Move on. Anything below a 5 is unhappiness. Above a 5, it's a positivity. Hey, if it's 6 out of 10, it ain't very good. I wouldn't stay in a 6 out of 10 relationship, but it's better than nothing. So, hey, you put up with it. Now, Wes's relationship, as toxic it is, it can't be better than a 2. It can't be that good.
Want the recipe? Don't have any videos of Joey for you tonight, so this will have to do.
Looks pretty okay. Sure, you can give me the recipe. Thanks for the donation, even though.
I mean, perhaps it could be worse. It could be a little bit worse than this, but it could be so much better. I mean, you could find another woman, perhaps she's even cheaper, you could afford her, and she could pretend to love you the way that you need. And so why not just hire someone else? I don't get it. I mean, she does look very attractive. I mean, the fact that she's a high-class, I don't know, stripper, escort, whatever you want to call her, she's not bad, but there are other fish in the sea, like millions of others, and so why not move on?
We know some shit is going down, and I truly think, you know, Jack is paying this asshole, I think, $10,000 per stream, right, to get him on.
Jack has to pay him $10,000 to be on a live stream? I mean, wouldn't he want to do it just for the attention alone?
These videos. I give a fuck. Yeah, no, I can tell. He's attracted your life. He's in the process of getting sued.
Jack, he basically says these videos are amazing. He loves the quality of the videos and so on, and he wants to get his reaction. And his reaction is, oh, I don't like this man at all. I'm going to sue him.
The guy just lives off of my nutsack.
He lives off his nutsack because he couldn't find the other part that's supposed to be there. It's too much of a micro. Dink, 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 dink. Now, why didn't you just take it as a compliment? He's getting the most amount of views from any video does about Wes Watson. If Wes Watson were smart about it, he'd be thinking, you know what? It's because I'm the man. I'm important. He's doing videos about me, and the people love it because I'm an alpha. Rather than that, he says, hey, he lives off my nutsack, my testicle. Why do you have to say all these things? And so there you have it, a very long way of saying that Wes Watson has lost a significant amount of muscle from sniffing creatine. Now,
what's Kina Buddy been up to? Oh my god, my fucking keyboard. Bitcoin.
All right, in this video, we're getting some.
Jeez.
Let's get into this workout. Now, crazy enough, for the last 4 months, I've taken a break from doing heavy shoulder pressing. I hurt my back a little bit doing the 110s, 115s, so I've actually taken a long break off the shoulder presses, but I've been able to maintain my shoulder size doing heavy incline presses and really crushing the lateral raises to the rear delts. But now we're bringing back my bread and butter, the shoulder press. So we're working out with my friend Audrey. She's a model here in Miami. She's gonna be doing this workout with me. Women can do this too. So we're gonna be starting off with the shoulder press. So we're gonna start off elbows in, and as we push, we rotate out, and this rotation out here is gonna activate the mid delt. So we're gonna warm up a few sets, and then we're gonna go on to the seated dumbbell press. So I'm warming up with 50s here. We're We're gonna go for 100, which is crazy because I haven't done shoulder press in 4 months. So this is a pretty upright angle, so this is gonna be really hard. And we're going for the freaking hundreds after 4 months of taking a break.
Zero. Yeah, I don't know why people can't just do a full range of motion, go all the way down.
I think we managed to hit like 6 reps or so. This was really, really heavy. If I work on this movement for a couple months, I should be able to get back to like doing 12 plus smooth reps. But whenever you take a long break from doing a movement pattern, it's normal that your strength's gonna come down quite a bit, but now my body can hyper respond to it. And now we're gonna rest a few minutes. You know, I'm actually going down to like 70s because instead for this second set, instead of going out, flaring and keep the elbows in tighter, this is gonna be a lot harder. We're gonna bang out some reps like this, and I actually really, really like this movement pattern. So for traditional incline presses, you can kind of bring the elbows out and you can go heavier. But if you really want to actually challenge yourself, you can keep the elbows in tighter, and that actually builds more upper chest on the incline presses. It creates more shoulder reduction. You can do the same thing with your shoulder presses. Instead of coming out here, you bring the elbows in, and as you push, you bring the elbows back. I felt the second set in my shoulders more than the first set with the heavier weights. So I actually really like this style. So if you want to mix it up, go a little bit lighter on your shoulder presses, keep the elbows in, and press up like this. And this is more of a functional movement pattern. If you're lifting someone up, right, you're punching, the elbows staying tight. For bodybuilding, a lot of people like to press wide and do shoulder press wide, but you're gonna build more functional power, more useful strength with the elbows in. Now we're gonna go into some pull-up work, right? So I'm doing the lat pull down, put a couple sets building up to heavier weight. One top set. And then again, one lighter set with full rest periods. I find all you need to do to get the most incredible muscle building stimulus from exercise is literally after you do a couple build-up sets, one heavy top set, full rest, 3 minutes, and then one set with a lighter weight. You go 10 to 20% lighter for more reps. You don't need 3, 4 sets. Sometimes I'll do 3. Most of my programs, you know, are built off doing the 3, but now my later routines in my app and my systems, we really just do 2. Now we're gonna go into some dip work. We're gonna do the dip machine, and I am like crazy strong on this movement. So I'm actually going to, after the warm-up, the max weight, and I think I banged out like 15 reps, so. That was honestly way too easy, but the dip is great. You feel it really nice in the triceps and even the chest. So we're getting a little bit extra chest work today. Even doing the shoulder presses, you're gonna get a little bit of chest, but now we're gonna really hit the extra chest with the dip machine. And again, same thing, we're gonna drop the weight and do one more set. This is an amazing workout. This is all you really need. And now we're gonna go into some bicep work in the machine curls. Same thing, a little warm-up set.
Zero.
A heavy set.
You know, I've always thought the machines were worse than just free weights. Free weight preacher curls are just better. They just are.
All right, tell me a tiny bit on this last 2 reps. Okay, that was brutal. And the biceps are freaking active. I think I wanted to test something on my later set. I just did 10 reps, 8 to 10, and then just the bottom little pulse, really just challenging the biceps. This is really just for fun. Audrey's getting her ass kicked, okay?
Can you make it heavier?
Is it too heavy?
Can you make it heavier?
That's a tiny bit heavier.
Yeah.
Keep trying.
Wait, maybe try. Oh.
Come on. Yeah. We're doing the keynote training right now. Typically, when I do my shoulder press days, I usually do lateral raises on that day, but I'm actually flipping it this time. On my shoulder press days, I'm gonna pair it with the rear delt flies, hit the rear delts, and that way, on the days I do a bit more chest, I'm gonna do the lateral raises, so I can really hit the shoulders more frequently. So the trade-off is I'm not gonna be hitting the shoulders as hard on this day, I'm not gonna hit the medial delt as hard on this day, but instead I'm gonna get my shoulders 2 strong pulses for growth. My hypothesis is that this actually might lead to slightly better gains doing the 2 pulses. I'm gonna be split testing this for you, but I would love for you to test that out as well and give me your feedback. This workout's freaking awesome, and if you want to power up your free T, get into crazy shape, you want to be using the Mojo, this is freaking awesome to power the free T, support more muscle, better gains, and everyone that joins the Mojo Shred with my fat loss combined, the subscription, you actually get access to my Shred 60 protocol to slice off that quickly in 60 days. So we have some awesome stuff for you here, but this workout is perfect, okay? You're getting about 5 exercises, 2 hard sets, each workout in the main key movements. Could you add a couple more movements? Yes, but I found that work not as good. I got in inferior results. In fact, usually I actually only do like 4 movements. I actually simplify my training even more and I come back stronger. So I actually really like to just simplify so much, just dial my training into the absolute most minimalist, and that's when I make the best results. And yeah, sometimes I'll do an extra movement like today, you know, literally less is more. I cannot push this hard enough. When you track your results, you'll see this. The less you do, the better. So if you want to transform your physique, get on the Mojo Shred, slice off fat, do Shred 60, transform, build those incredible shoulders. And I hope you guys found this video very beneficial. All you need is a couple work.
Well, that was a workout. That's all I can really say about that. Should probably do a bit more range of motion, but that was a workout. All right, I'm gonna go to bed. It's late. You know. I did do a workout stream earlier, so probably not gonna do a workout stream tomorrow. I don't think I will. And yeah, I'll try to get some good sleep in the afternoon and then just try to stream at a normal time. But hope you all had fun. Big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. And I will see you all tomorrow.